By show of hands, who knows what the term environmental justice is? Please don't be shy. I mean, this is the forum. Who knows what environmental justice is? Environmental justice is a relatively new thing where it's been going on for a long time, but we put a phrase to it. That's where companies, you have some companies intentionally put hazardous waste facilities in heavily minority communities. It is not by accident, it is done by design. And I'm going to give you an example of that. Whether it be a hazardous waste treatment facility, a very bad wastewater treatment facility, things of that nature, it's done by design. You'll be surprised where you have some companies who have done their own internal research to show, I'm going to place company A in this location because they have done their own information, say, this segment of population, they don't vote, they don't complain. Yeah, they may go out to one rally, but that's all they're going to do. They don't sign petitions. And I will give them the illusion of jobs. Okay, the hazardous waste facility may say they're going to bring in 350 jobs, but in actuality, only 75 of those jobs are employed by the local community, and those are primarily custodial jobs or very dangerous jobs. But the high-paying upper jobs, no. But there are some studies to show that the health effects of those facilities has had a very detrimental effect in the surrounding neighborhoods. So they may have had an impact on birth rate and various other health issues. But environmental justice, and I will tell you right now, the federal agencies, specifically EPA and the Department of Justice, if we can prove that we can charge them with an environmental justice charge, they go very hard after these companies that do environmental justice. So I just wanted to bring that's a relatively new thing called environmental justice. That would be considered, if you're charging the company, an enhancement to an additional environmental charge. Case reviews. I'm only going to give 3 cases. And one thing when I talk about cases, I don't talk about open cases. I do not talk about open cases, and I won't talk about open cases because that's one thing we don't talk about. We talk about closed cases. But since it's a water thing, I'm only going to focus on water-related cases. But again, with environmental, sometimes it's just not specific to water. There's always a mixture, sometimes hazardous waste and water. Standard Paints and Coatings in Detroit, when I used to work, this was a company called Standard Paints and Coatings. They were a paint manufacturer, and the equivalent, I'm going to be very frank and honest, this company was, when they first went into operation, they were a very good company. The grandfather had great aspirations. He ran it well, did what he had to do, but he got very ill. He did not trust his son. So he passed it on to his grandson, and his grandson basically ran it into the ground. His grandson, at the time, placed it into, well, it was already in operation, but the facility was located, what would be the equivalent to 3rd Ward. But the grandson lived in what would be the equivalent to, well, it was West Bloomfield Hills Township, would be the equivalent to either the Woodlands or River Oaks. The grandson just stopped caring. He started because it was a paint manufacturing facility, he just started, instead of properly treating the waste, he just started letting it just pile up. And after a while, it became very, very bad. Now, this is in a residential neighborhood, and you're asking, what does this have to do with water? Well, what we found out during the course of the investigation, there was an allegation that he had buried a school bus that was connected to the storm drain. And as a result, he was pouring some of the paint waste down into the school bus and had cut into the storm drain and was pouring paint byproducts down the Detroit storm drain. We executed a search warrant in the dead of winter, and just so happened that this was the day the sun was out. And when we executed the facility, we had to literally, when we made entry, we had to back out because the fumes were so toxic. The roof was caving in. When we executed in the warrant, well, first off, this was the facility from the outside, somewhat of an abandoned facility, but in actuality, this facility was still in operation. Like earlier, city inspectors came by, trying to do their job. He kept blowing them off. They kept saying, hey, we need to come and inspect. He kept saying, I don't have the key to the facility that has where, the stuff we're supposed to have. So we got tips from the inside workers and we executed a warrant. When we came inside the warrant, this is what we found. Just drums. Drums. Turned over drums, no labeling, no organization stacked 3, 4, 5 high, and so forth. See drums turned over. That's all paint waste here. And where do you think all that paint waste is going to? It's going down. And keep in mind, these facilities have drains. Where do you think all that's going down to? It's going down to the sewer system and so forth. It's all going down to it. Now, this photograph here, this is not the floor. He had them stacked so high, that's the ceiling. That's the ceiling. He had them stacked like 4 or 5 high. That's the ceiling. Again, and all this is flammable and ignitable. And again, all this stuff was leaking. It was running down into the storm drains, onto his facility, running out into the sanitary sewer. He just didn't care. These are some of the examples of criminal cases that involve not just clean water, but hazardous waste, because when we deal with environmental, they all just come together. It was so bad because we was caving in, a bird fell in and fell into the barrel and started dying there and had been dissolved. Started decaying, started undissolved. When we got ready to take him to trial, he wanted to cop a plea, but he said, hey, this is all product. We said, really? You want to think twice about that? He said, yeah. I said, we showed him, I was there with the prosecutor. I said, the last thing was, the last name was Gould. And I said, Mr. Gould, you want to think twice about that? And I said, why show us one photo? He said, bad paint. His attorney said, let's talk, let's plead. Again, criminal intent. Criminal intent. Knowledge. You knew what you were dealing with. Like I said earlier, knowledge, that's your knowledge right there. One of your employees wrote the word bad paint. Again, this bad paint was, someone had actually buried a school bus that had hooked up to a storm drain and like a sanitary sewer line. So someone actually physically broke into the storm, like the sanitary line, and was disposing of paint waste into a sanitary line.